Hello and welcome back to another update as we cover the continuation of the Israeli-Palestinian war. We start out with the reaction of the different countries about the situation and the war starting. So first off, we see that the United States, France, United Kingdom, Germany, and Denmark all have condemned the Palestinians for doing the attacks, while the Middle Eastern countries like Turkey and Saudi Arabia, Egypt, all say, these three countries, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey, they are doing a somewhat middle ground where they're essentially saying that the fighting should stop and they should come to a ceasefire agreement. And the Russians are also within this group. They are calling for a ceasefire agreement. Meanwhile, we have the third grouping, which is Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Hezbollah in South Lebanon. These groupings all say and warn the Israelis from doing a land operation towards Gaza, trying to prevent them from invading Gaza from the northern sides or eastern sides as a response to this Palestinian attack. Egypt has joined in that. However, the only ones who actually say that they'll do something if that happens are the Hezbollah groupings here in the north of Israel. They say and warn Israel that if they launch an attack towards Gaza, then they will attack from the north. So there's a threat of a Hezbollah attack from the northern direction if the Israelis launch an attack towards the Palestinian locations here in Gaza. As for what has actually happened throughout the day, we can start out with the very beginning of the attack, which happened today on the 7th of October at 5 a.m. in the morning local time, just before the rising of the sun. And this time was chosen because throughout history, the optimal time to start an attack has always been just a couple of hours before the sunrise, because that is the point at which the night guard is about to be tired and the morning guard is about to be sent in. So the morning guard isn't ready and the night guard is very tired, so they're exhausted. So there's no perfect defense of the area. On top of this, we've also seen that the Israelis today is the Yom Kippur day, as well as it being a Saturday. So it's a holiday for the Israeli Jews. So the general Israeli population and Jewish population have this day as a holiday and as a relaxing day. So this was a day where they are extra not prepared. And at the same time, it's a holiday, the Yom Kippur holiday. So all of this combined into one made it so that today, this morning, was the day of the whole year that the Jewish people, that the Israelis and the soldiers were the least prepared. And that is very evident with the initial success of the Palestinians throughout the initial hours of the fighting. So the very first stage of this whole operation was the Palestinians entering and attacking the Kerem Shalom checkpoint here in the southern parts. So the village of Kerem Shalom and the checkpoint were both captured by the Palestinians at the very first hours of the day. So essentially what this fighting happened is as is shown in this video here. We start out with the Palestinians crossing over minefields by the borderline with their motorbikes. They then take them as prisoners, after which they'll most likely do a prisoner exchange, which there's already been talks of. Following them destroying this tank and passing through the minefields, they started attacking the installment and military installment here in the Kerem Shalom area. The military base located in the area was stormed by the Palestinian fighters, and they managed to capture the checkpoint as well as get rid of the Israeli military within the area. They caught them off guard in the sense that they were attacking at about 5 in the morning, and they were passing through these areas without the Israelis being able to respond in time. As soon as they detected the Palestinian fighters, they started preparing, but with the short time and them just waking up, they simply didn't have enough time to man their positions and stations, and the Palestinians ended up with such a major advantage that they managed to capture the whole military installment in a very short time and capturing most of the equipment without the Israelis being able to actually make use of it. So the Palestinians grew much stronger after capturing the checkpoint. They then moved from this position and throughout the day expanded the whole area border zone between the Gaza Strip and the Israeli positions in all directions, following the capture of these military equipment. Then we take a look at a different location, which is here to the north, where there's the military checkpoint of Erez, as well as a military base located here to the south of the village of Sikkim and in this general direction. So both the checkpoint and the military base were both captured by the Palestinian forces again here in the early hours. Following this, we see the following video here. In the video, we see multiple trucks and armored personnel carriers being captured by the Palestinian forces as they managed to capture this location and military installment here to the north of the Gaza Strip. And as such, they were much better equipped and in a much better position than earlier than that. At the same time, during the morning, they launched a motorboat excursion towards the Israeli areas here to the north of the military installments to prevent any reinforcements from arriving, giving the Palestinian forces enough time to make use of the equipment captured. They then linked up and moved all the way up to the village of Ascalon here to the north of the Gaza Strip. So fighting started taking place within the settlement. As for the central part, we saw first off that the Palestinian forces stormed these different locations, capturing multiple villages. They actually managed to capture a total of 14 settlements across the front. Meanwhile, fighting was also taking place in 4 different cities across the front, at the city of Ofakim in the direction of Metiwot, as for the northern parts by Sderot, and in the very northern parts by Ashkelon. So these 4 cities were the main areas of fighting after the initial success by the Palestinian forces with their surprise attack. Since then, we just got this update from Syriac Maps, which shows that most of the connections to these villages for the Palestinian forces were cut off here to the west of Ojekim, here to the southwest. The Palestinian forces were cut off with the supply lines being cut by the Israeli forces. In the northern parts, there's also counterattacks by the Israeli forces, but here they have not managed to recapture the areas. Fighting is still going on within the gray zone in between the Palestinian and Israeli areas. As for the northern parts, there's also counterattacks here by the Israeli forces, as well as in the northern parts here, the Israeli forces managed to cut off the supplies for the Palestinian forces, but the Palestinian forces still hold control over the dockyards here. However, the Israeli forces actually have a navy, on the contrary to the Gaza forces not having any. So what we're seeing is that the pure technological advantage and the actual standing army of the Israelis is able to push back the Palestinians despite having this initial major success due to their surprise attack. The lack of actual weapons is catching up to them, and the Israelis are able to push them back in multiple directions. This is all combined with what happens throughout the whole country, with the Palestinians attacking the Israeli cities with missiles all throughout the day and during the nighttime, as is seen with all of these videos which are being shown on screen, where the missiles actually hit multiple locations due to the sheer amount of Palestinian missiles completely overwhelming the Israeli Iron Dome system. And in response to this, the Israelis started airstriking the Gaza Strip and the frontline positions. So from these satellite images here, we can see the utter destruction in the areas that the Palestinians actually managed to capture ahead of the Gaza Strip. And we also see all of these videos here, which showcase destruction from the airstrikes within the Gaza Strip. And according to the latest information from the official sources, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu actually reported that they are going to, and I quote, "We will avenge this dark day and turn Gaza into a city of ruins," after he encouraged and called on the residents of the Gaza Strip to immediately leave the enclave. So the Israelis are planning on a ground operation where they want to essentially completely destroy Gaza and wipe it off the face of the earth. This is where the international responses comes into effect. Essentially, we have the West saying, Israel, go ahead, you're allowed to do this, with the Middle Eastern countries essentially saying, no, don't do this, and with specifically Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Iran telling Israel not to do this, and specifically Hezbollah saying, don't do this or we will attack from the north. So we are seeing all of these different responses, and all of them have an effect on the decision that the Israelis take, but it seems that they have decided on listening to the Western countries, allowing them to launch this offensive, and then they'll just take whatever response is sent to them. This is very interesting because we have to look at what these different countries will actually say after this and what they will actually do after this, because the local populations of these areas, the governments and the populations do not agree on how to respond to this. The general population in these countries all agree on one thing, and that they stand with Palestine. They all agree that they want Palestine to win this war. That is the response of all Muslim countries across the world. While the governments have a more diplomatic approach, they want a ceasefire, they want the war to stop. So it depends on how these governments actually correspond and respond to the wants of their population. Are they going to listen to them and actually just go out and start another Arab war against Israel? Or will they do more diplomatic work, try to initiate a ceasefire and so on? This could escalate to become a major Middle Eastern war, or it could just end with the Israelis bombing all of the Gaza Strip to nothingness. And that has been all from me today. It is Sweep Union, and thank you all for watching, and have a great day.